going on. Now I need to open the presentation. Okay. I need you. So sorry, we needed to change the computer because of a technical issue with Skype.
Okay, yes, I thought so actually. I'm sorry about that.
How can we do that? Now, can I get you memory stick again, please? Okay. So it will take 2 more minutes. Sorry, Lorenzo. I need to transfer your presentation from one laptop to another one.
Sure, thank you very much.
So you've got pretty much everyone looking at me and and looking at.
Start. The first, I personally don't need the presentation. It's for the benefit of the audience, and it is very simple. They are very simple concepts anyway at the beginning. So if you don't mind, I can start with an oral presentation, and then when you are ready, you catch up with me.
Brilliant. Let's do that. Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, perfect.
All right, that's perfect. And then I have a couple of videos at the end if we have a bit of time.
Okay, excellent.
All right, great. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lorenzo David, and I work at Rhodes University in the School of Journalism and Media Studies. And Rhodes University is based in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. Today I will tell you about essentially an intervention I did with my master's students involving the use of mobile phones, but not exactly a mobile learning intervention. It is a different use of mobile phones environment. So the use of mobile phones in South Africa, it is well known that mobile phone penetration is very pervasive and very fast. It is estimated that above 110%, meaning that people typically have more than one active SIM card. So a very large proportion of the population actually uses mobile phones. And the type of mobile phones that we find around are better and better. So the half of the mobile phones in use in South Africa by the end of this year are smartphones. Having said this, the mobile phone is interesting in many respects. For my intervention, I look particularly at the multimedia capabilities of the mobile phone. So talking about pictures, audio recording, and particularly videos. And that makes it interesting in a couple of respects. The fact that these type of capabilities are present on almost every mobile phone. Almost everybody has access to a mobile phone that has a video capability, even in the most remote areas across almost all socioeconomic backgrounds.
Lorenzo,
yes, thank you.
Oh, I'm just on your presentation now, and I'm on the slide.
That's perfect. I'm on slide number 4 now. I'm getting to number 4 now. I just finished with multimedia.
Wow, you're so fast. You're so Italian. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's very. Yeah.
Pronto. Okay.
That's perfect. So I'm getting into authentic learning now, so you can.
Yes.
Get to that slide.
All good.
All right, that's perfect. So. In terms of multimedia capabilities, one last thing, very simple, is the fact that people are familiar with this technology. To talk about this intervention, and there are a few elements of authentic learning which come in handy and that are reflected in this intervention. The first is the bridging of the educational environment and the real life context. And this is particularly important for university students in South Africa now, because as you might have heard, we are having quite a lot of protests. The education sector is in turmoil, and one of the issues that we are trying to address is to strengthen the link between academia and the rest of society, particularly marginalized areas. So this is the first element. The second, and this is a general issue in education, is to connect what happens in the classroom with the outside in terms of learning, in terms of what students do and learn, and also in terms of assessment and how we think about assessment. So In a sense, I wanted an activity which is not simply leading to a test, which is leading to a mark, but something that really means something, an experience. And the third point is I shaped this activity as a constructivist activity. People, students, and members of the community with whom they interact, they make sense of what happens. It is not simply something that are in books, but it's something we try to reflect on and we try to prepare students for. Great, next slide, which is the context. And I've already mentioned that I work at Rhodes University. This particular intervention was done with a group of master's students in journalism and media studies, approximately 10 in the class. And we did activities at the university, as well as activity with some selected students in a rural.
As you can see, that Skype doesn't work better than Hangout.
It's the projector.
It's the projector.
Lorenzo?
Yes.
Do you mind just to pause 1 second? Now we've got an issue with the projector. Aren't you lucky?
All right, that's fine.
Look, you know the classic thing, you know. So yes, you're right.
I'm going to go system off and back on.
Okay.
Get one very quick glimpse of light.
Life outside.
Yeah.
No,
Life
that's on
beyond
and
me
off.
now.
It's all part of the on and off.
It's, look, Lorenzo is part of a show. Everything is collapsing now. I will try to put you on speaker somewhere.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. In New Zealand, we call it the taniwha. It's the sort of the soul, the spirit of a place, and it's sending us some signal. So sorry to interrupt your presentation, but
No worries. Where did you lose me? Should I backtrack or can I just carry on?
Yeah. Okay.
What?
You need to hook it up.
yes. So I will try to. Wait a minute. The projector is off.
Just talk to us and see if it comes through. the speaker.
Can you talk? No. Okay. Can you try again? Talk.
I'm here.
Yes. Okay. We can
Still
hear.
talking.
Can you hear my laptop?
Okay.
All right. It looks like we've got enough coverage from my laptop speakers.
So,
What's
do I have
wrong
to
with
speak
it?
really loud?
Yes. Please keep shouting.
Okay,
And it's 4 o'clock in the
I'm gonna
morning.
wake up all my neighbors. All right.
No.
So, okay. Where did you lose me? Should I start again from the project?
We've lost you on the slide context. Context.
Okay.
Do we need to call AV?
All right. So, the students, they actually conducted an activity revolving around mobile videos in a deep rural area in South Africa where we have a research site. We've been active there for 8 years now, and it is a typical African rural area with lack of infrastructure, lack of electricity, but we have some network-connected school computer labs. So people there have access to computers and to the internet, which makes it a little bit different from the typical rural area in South Africa. All right, next slide. Mobile phones as a catalyst for teaching. On the one hand, that's the first activity. And the type of activities we did in terms of teaching and learning were, first of all, a guest lecture by an international speaker, explaining a little bit how to use mobile phones to take videos, emphasizing and showing our students how to do it. Then students went off and did it themselves, among themselves, to practice, and then they took mobile videos of people at Rhodes University and in the city.
Have you audio settings on your laptop?
No, that's it.
People who speak English as a second language. Okay, I hear my echo now.
Yes, sorry, you're back on now.
All right, and then the third activity in terms of teaching and learning was to go out in the site for some selected master students, go out in this rural area and conduct workshops to teach local people how to take mobile videos. Next slide about research. We instrumented this activity, this workshop, as part of research. So on the one hand, what makes it interesting is the fact that this area is relatively underrepresented in research. So it is a new area to study, and the data collected are original. The type of approach that we use is called narrative inquiry. So we got people in the area to tell us their own story about mobile phones, how they got it, how they use it, what challenges they face, etc. So narrative inquiry, and that's it. And then we discussed the results in class. In terms of community engagement, this is the third leg of academic activities for South African University, and it involves some connection between academia and the neighboring communities. And the first aspect of this community engagement, in terms of this initiative, was service learning. So the idea that university students give back part of what they've learned to the community, and particularly to members of marginalized communities. So it was interesting to put the university students in contact with members of the rural community. And community engagement, an important thing to note is the fact that the technology used was very accessible, that people in the rural area used their own phones, and that they had access to networked computer labs through the Secura Living Lab, so the ICT for Development project I mentioned earlier. This means that the initiative is to some extent sustainable, that people do not need data, they do not need to travel to town, to an internet cafe. They can do everything, and they can apply everything they have learned there where they live and with the mobile phones they have. Now, some strong points, next slide. Some strong points which I believe came out of this intervention. First of all, fostering critical high-order thinking, the fact that students reflected on this experience, and they realized things. They were able to generalize, they were able to deconstruct myths. So for instance, they realized that people in rural areas are actually familiar with Facebook, with WhatsApp, with to a lesser extent Twitter, YouTube, etc., and that even older people in rural areas are aware of these relatively advanced network features. So an interesting discovery there. The depth of knowledge, for instance, explaining why people spend quite a lot of money on very expensive mobile phones. It is not just a matter of the functionality. The mobile phone in a rural area is the TV, the radio, the phone, the computer, but it's also a matter of status. People want to be able to show their mobile phone because it is the most important marker of social identity. It is the most expensive thing they own in some instances. So explaining why things happen, depth of knowledge. And then connectedness, being able to connect this learning to their own experience. So learning becoming part of the experiences of our students, and conversely, a part of the experience of people in the rural area. And the few points which need improvement, this is the last slide. Few points that need improvement are the substantive understanding. So we will need some more reflection class. That activity needs to be structured better. We did not have enough time this year, but I'm planning to implement it next year. The second point, let me see if I remember. The second point, I have a blank. Laurent, can you please help me?
Yes,
there?
social support. Social
Exactly, yes. Now, I would like this material that students produce to get out of the classroom, not simply to be shared among ourselves, but perhaps to get feedback from the outside. And in this sense, I'm hoping to make some contribution to next year's edition of MENA video showings. And then in terms of the local rural community, one important thing is to follow up on this type of initiative. So that is not simply a workshop, a couple of days, and then people disappear. And in this sense, something that is going to happen during the first half of next year is a contest. So it's not a context, it's a contest. People will create mobile videos, and then we're going to have an award ceremony at the end with a prize, perhaps a nice tablet or a nice smartphone. And these are the plans that I have for the future of this project. Right, so thank you very much, everybody. I'd like to thank particularly Laurent and the technical support.
Grazie mille, grazie, grazie.
I'm ready. If there is a little bit of time, there are two videos I'd like to show you. Is this possible, Laurent, or should we jump to the questions?
A question would be better. Because of a technical issue, sorry.
Sure, no problem. Okay, I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Lorenzo. We're just going to go to questions.
Thank you.
Did you want to organise the next?
No.
Okay,
No
okay.
questions for Lorenzo, South Africa, community
All
engagement.
right. Hopefully you managed to get most of that. It was a little bit broken up. Anyone got any queries for Lorenzo?
No.
Sorry, Lorenzo.
Well, no, please.
Actually, has he just hung up?
No. So it's Tom joining. Yes.
Just a quick one. You know the mobile videos you talked about?
Amy, do you mind to come?
Lorenzo, can you hear that?
No,
Oh,
very
okay.
little. Maybe you can repeat
Yeah,
the question.
we're coming over near the device. So.
So it's one here.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, hi, yes, perfectly,
Hi.
loud and clear. Hi.
I'm just seeking a bit of clarification. So when you're talking about the qualitative method you used with narrative inquiry, asking the students to tell their own story, are those mobile videos you used the ones that students produced with each other?
No, I'm thinking mainly about the videos that members of the local rural communities produce. So in fact, they interviewed each other, and they interviewed each other in the local language, which is called this Xhosa. And that is another big advantage of using mobile phones, because it is a technology they are comfortable with, and they can speak in the language they are comfortable with.
Okay.
So basically the way it worked is we paired them up, and one person was asking the questions and the other was telling the story. And in this way, we gathered information on how people acquire their mobile phone, how they use it, the type of challenges, a bit of their mobile story.
And who did those questions?
We suggested some questions at the beginning, and basically we took the domestication approach and its various components as a starting point, and then we tried to simplify it essentially. To start with what device do you have, when did you get it, what do you do with it, what challenges do you face, so various questions to try and get people going. And then some people seem quite happy to tell us about their phone and their stories. As I mentioned before, the mobile phone is, for some people, is the most expensive thing they own. So they tend to be quite proud of it, and they are happy to tell you about it and what they do with it, etc.
Okay. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, great. My second video actually has an example of that, and you can ask for more, or I can send it to you if you contact me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lorenzo.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lorenzo.
Well, thank you very much, Lorenzo. Thanks very much
Thanks,
for
thank you.
waking up so early.
Thanks a lot. Okay, thank you.
And good night.
All right, well, and have a nice day to you all.
Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.
All right, bye-bye. Ciao.
All right. So, Vikol, you're here. Excellent.
Maybe just explain to people who's actually presenting, so you're not presenting. So
Okay, so
it's Thomas and
yes, yes,
Vikral, and they're both coming
yes.
in.
Hey, Vikol, can you hear me? Thumbs up or not? Yeah.
Just need to unmute.
Yes, you can hear me. Do you mind to invite Tom, or is he around you? Because I'm just between two laptops. All right. It's very sporty. Every year, once a year, I sweat like that. Oh, but that's good. Yeah.
This,
Do you want to speak now, Vikral?
Yeah, I'm speaking.
Oh, you're there. You're there. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got the sound. Thanks.
Woohoo.
Okay, cool.
And you're on mute screen. You
All right.
presenting? Tommy joining?
Yes, I'm just sending him the link. Hang on.
Brilliant. Okay. Vikol, this is Sif. Seth.
Hello.
Hi.
How you going?
Yeah, good. How are things?
Good,
Seemed
thanks.
like you guys were having some sound problems.
As usual, you know.
No, we just had to unclick the mute button. What was that? G'day.
Okay, too late. It's all done. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just live. We can just debrief later. Yeah. Okay.
So we've got someone.
So probably Vikol can start.
Is Thomas coming
and
in?
Tom
or-
will join us if Tom gets invite.
Yeah, I've just sent him an invite. Hang on, because Tommy is going to start, and that was the plan. Let me see.
So for people in the program, I think Laurent's not presenting. It's just Vikral and
Yes.
Yes.
So we did some work
Thomas.
together, but because I'm organizer, I stepped down, and they would just present what we're doing also in terms of education and mobile technology. So they would present that paper. And Tom is there. Look at that.
Right, finally.
Yeah. Yeah, just in front of the world. Look at that. Fantastic.
Yes, where we should be. How's Melbourne?
Good. It's meant to be very hot, but I think it's cooled off out there, luckily.
Yeah, right. That's Melbourne for you.
Absolutely.
Good coffee though.
Yeah, Tom is a coffee addict.
All right. So we're ready to go when you are. So if you want to make a start. Do we have any
Okay.
slides or-
Well, we've got Vikral here
Do
as well,
you-
so
we just need to check. Do you have any slides that you want us to show simultaneously while you talk, or?
I'll just try screen sharing and see how that goes.
Okay, great.
If it doesn't work, then we've just tweeted the link to the notes anyway.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so shall we get underway then?
Yep. There you go.
Cool. Okay. All right. I'll just introduce Vikral, my co-presenter. You can see his little head down the bottom there. There he is. Yes. And of course, Laurent, who is going to be our lovely assistant today. So I'm just going to try some screen sharing, and hopefully you can see my notes. So let's just do this. And there we go. So hopefully you see a QR code.
We do.
You do? Excellent. So those who have got a QR code reader might want to quickly scan that. As I said, I've just tweeted that to #MENA2015 as well, the link. So this is an Evernote. And we've just got some notes that we'll be flicking through today. And we'll double team a little bit so that I'll hand back over to Vikal shortly. For those of you who don't have a QR code scanner, just below that is the short link. So I'll just bring that up now. There it is. It's case sensitive. is.gd/JH O, I think it is, 9 XG. So what we want to talk about today was really, I guess, the crossover between mobile learning, altmetrics, and the Scholarship of Technology Enhanced Learning, and just sort of see how mobile and mobile learning really can enhance your profile as a researcher. So that's kind of where we're at today. So we just want to give a brief broad overview, some examples, and a bit of a framework that we've been developing. So the first thing there is called H-Index. I'm not sure if people have heard about it too much, but H-Index was developed about 2004, which really gives sort of a combination overview of average publications that you've published and average citations per publication. So it gives like an impact factor for you as a researcher. And then of course the two main, or two of the biggest publishing companies have their own impact factors. So we have Scopus, which is owned by Elsevier, and Web of Science, owned by Thomson Reuters, and then of course Google Scholar. And Google Scholar is obviously a bit more open, so I'm just going to show you, where is it? Google Scholar. Got too many things open here. Let's just click on the link to bring that up. So when you log into your Google account and you go to Google Scholar, you'll see there's a link there, My Citations. But click on that just as an example. You can see you can associate whatever papers that you've written in Google. It gives you a citation count, and it gives you a nice little interactive graph. You can see how many times over the last few years papers have been cited, and it gives you that H-index. It's just a bit more overview, a broader overview than what you get from Scopus or from Web of Science, because they really just focus on their own publications. And then of course this leads us to Researcher ID. So Scopus has an ID, and Researcher ID is owned by Thomson Reuters, and you can search for researchers for yourself or other people and see what impact factor is. So there's Thomson Reuters, and you can create your own login and search, etc. You can search for researchers or publications, and we'll give you an impact factor and citations. One of the newest ones is OrcID, which is really it's much more open, and it tries to bring together these other two main ones. So it's the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. And if I have a quick look up here, you can see I've already opened it here. So you can associate with your OrcID your Researcher ID, your Scopus ID, and then you can add another website. So I've added in here Mendeley, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, etc. And you can pull in from those databases automatically, like I've done here, your outputs from Scopus, from Web of Science, and bring them all into one sort of consolidated profile. So it's quite nice, and you can add those from EndNote, etc. as well. And then of course we have the growth of sort of social research networks. So going beyond, I guess, the traditional journal publications, you've got things like ResearchGate, and where you can rate your output compared to other people. You can share your publications. You can be part of a research network interested in specific topics, etc. You can get stats. You can see how many people are downloading your publications, etc. And get awards, etc., etc. So it's very much a sort of interactive network. Academia.edu, LinkedIn, of course, and Mendeley, which is kind of an interesting crossover between something like EndNote, which is a bibliographic tool, and also a social network. Depending on your point of view, it got unfortunately bought by Elsevier in 2012. So people have questions over how open it is now compared to how it used to be. Then, of course, we have the growth of open access publications. So beyond your traditional journals, which have a paid subscription model, and these are really starting to have an impact. You can see this in the Google Scholar rankings, and I've just done this for educational technology journals, where you can see in the top 10, 6 of those are actually open access journals. So we've got the Educational Technology Research and Development, AGET, IEEE, Transactions and Learning Technologies, Turkish Online Journal, and the International Review of Research. They're all open access, which means that you don't have to pay to read those publications. And so it opens you up to a whole wider audience. And we're kind of getting now towards the intersection with mobile, and I'll hand it over to Vico in just a sec. But there are some things to be aware of, and there's a lovely blog here, Scholarly OA. You've probably had emails from publishers wanting you to publish in their fantastic journal, and they'll publish them for you next week for the sum of £90 or whatever. So this is a blog which goes over and tries to warn people about predators. Basically, you know, a lot of journals that are perhaps coming out of places like India and China that really are sort of bogus or are not actually that academically sound, even though they purport to be open. So you've got to be wary of those. So just going to hand back over to Vico, and he'll take us through on to altmetrics.
Thank you, Tom. I'll just quickly choose the screen. Hang on, the entire screen. I'll go with that. Right, and all right. So Tom started talking. Feel free to jump in, Tom. But one side Tom started talking about was the social media aspect of this whole publishing side of academia. So before this, and I guess we strongly believe that this was the missing link, because quite a lot of things we talk about now actually ends up on social media, like Twitter, blogging, and things like that, which previously there wasn't a way to actually see what was happening or what others were talking or saying about your paper. So this is where altmetrics comes in, and so what it does is it actually in real time gathers statistics on what people are saying or talking about with regards to the paper which you have published. So like Twitter, what they're saying on Twitter, Facebook, blogging, Mendeley, and Reddit. So here at IUT, what we use is a research element, which pretty much is what most of the universities use to track the staff in their publication. So if you want to use altmetrics, there's a booklet. It's free to use. So it looks something like this, and if I actually wanted to show you an example, let me see if I can do, if we go to Google Scholar. And go to my publication, and say for example if you're reading a paper and you wanted to find out the altmetrics, which is the social media side of the publication side of academia. If you have got the booklet, if you click on it, it basically runs an algorithm. Oh yep, I just need to open the paper. There we go, and if I click on the booklet, so because it's not in their database, it can't find any stats. But if I go back to the examples we have, say for example this one here, so we've got the links, and the first link, if I click on it, it opens this up. Sorry, close this, that paper there. So what you see is the score, which is 31, and on the left hand side, you basically start to get all the other sort of stats. So over here, what you can see is the paper has been mentioned 34 times on Twitter, and 25 people actually have it in their library in Mendeley. If I actually wanted to find out who these people are on Twitter, all I have to do is click on the summary side and on the tag tab. And what you get are people who actually people who have tweeted about the paper on Twitter. So that's one example. And if I go back, you also get other stats like in the summary page, you get all research outputs. That's the number of research output. And you also get the ranking for your own paper. So outputs from research in learning technology, our paper is that paper, Riding the Wave of BYOD, is 25 out of 153 publications, which are very similar. Now another example, and this actually has got a bit more stats because again, if you look on the left-hand side, it says that we have got 40 people who have tweeted about the paper, 1 person on Facebook, and then we have got stats on Google+, and 10 people have it in the Mendeley library. And if I wanted to find out who these 5 people are on Google+, again, I can just simply click on it and it will load up the stats and who these people are. So from here, I can actually go and visit their profile and things like that. And the last example we have here is this paper. So you can see it has collected stats on the blog. 1 person blogged about it, 23 tweets, 1 video upload, so it also tracks videos as well. 70 people have it in Mendeley, and 2 people cite you like. And you also get stats, as I explained before, what's the ranking overall with regards to the journal you've published in, with regards to the age of the paper and other papers which were published around about the same time, and outputs with similar age from British Journal of Educational Technology, 3 out of 114, so which is actually pretty good.
So I think what we're sort of trying to say here is that by using these tools, which are actually all have mobile apps, so Twitter has a mobile app, Mendeley does, etc., etc., you can get this much more interaction, much more better idea of the impact of your paper and the conversation that it's generating, your research, via these mobile types of tools.
Yeah, and we think that it's also capturing the people who are actually on their mobile moving around. That's where they're reading, tweeting, and things like that. So it's almost capturing the mobility of the reader as we go along, making sense of what we've written and what others are saying.
So I think we'll flick down to the framework now. So I'll just start screen sharing here again. Just very quickly to sort of wrap up. Hopefully you can see that Evernote notes there. So what we're sort of looking at is this link with the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and with technology, and in this case mobile technology. It's the Scholarship of Technology Enhanced Learning, and just embedding this within sort of an educational design framework. We can align with Boyer's original model of 4 modes of scholarship: the scholarship of discovery, integration, application, and teaching and learning, within an educational framework where it's about informing your research, the actual enactment of that research, the evaluation within the local impact, and then the broader impact, which is your scholarship of technology enhanced learning. And I think this can be a very powerful way of really starting to see what sort of impact your mobile projects are having. And we have one example there of how we've used this framework to design a community of practice. We've called it Mossamelt. You can have a look at that. We're pretty much running out of time here. But as we scroll down, you can see, if you want to see some examples, myself and Vickles Walk ID. And then we have a few references that we've included there if you want to do any further reading. So I think that's kind of our time, really. And I guess we'll just sort of throw it open to questions.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you to the lovely Laurent.
Yeah, thank you. You may need to come down, I think, yes, the try and through method.
Yes. High performance. The question is coming, physically speaking.
Hi. We just heard today in the keynote about how software can be empowering and also disciplining. how would you relate that to your work and all the softwares that become relevant for academia?
Well, I guess I see the empowering of Altmetrics and the link with mobile, and that instead of having to wait several years in most cases to get citation counts to measure the impact of your research, you can get the impact of it on social media and the conversation it's generating instantly. And that's the beauty of Altmetrics. So it's not necessarily an alternative to traditional impact factors, but it adds a whole lot more value to your traditional impact factors that you can then use as proof to show the impact of what you're doing within the field.
Yeah, and I think it's also another way of engaging with the people who are actually reading your stuff. So just as you could find out who people are, people have said on Twitter, it's another way of actually engaging with them, because otherwise you don't really find out. Like Tom said, it's too late.
Yeah, so it allows you to have a two-way conversation about your research.
Okay, any other questions? One more question before SIF presentation? Yeah. So here the key factor about mobile is about the immediacy and ubiquity, and in terms of sussing out who is your reader and who is looking at your work basically as a researcher.
Yeah, and I think it's just that powerful thing of not just seeing Twitter and these other social networks as social only, because they can have a very powerful, research impact, and that's the message that we're just trying to get across.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much. Stay with us. We've got one more presentation to go. Sif is here.
Okay, have fun.
Sif,
All right, see you.
you don't want to hear about Sif's presentation? It was so fast. Victor, you should stay at least. Around. So we all left, but I'm sure we will keep an eye on the live. Okay, so Sif, you know how to set it up, and don't break it.
Okay, I don't have any hangouts, so hopefully it's live. It's totally live.
Yeah, let's keep on recording.
All right, I'm just going to run this.
No, the sound of HDMI needs to be done on the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. A bit more than that. All right, so sitting within the education panel, I'm just going to be talking about a studio that I've been teaching for the last 3 years. What I'm proposing today is that sketching as a design method can be used to teach the production of video content using a smartphone as part of addressing fast-paced changes in technology and transformations in new media practices. So drawing on the experience of teaching a mobile videography studio within the professional production strand of a tertiary media program here at RMIT, I'm going to flesh out this proposition by covering the following. Where video sketching originated from, adapting video sketching into a design method, sketching as a core design process, and video sketching in the media studio. And then I'll conclude with several points that look at how video sketching helps students bring together the skills and knowledge required to work with changing technologies and practices. So I experimented with the notion of sketching with video in my PhD research, and the idea was adapted from Miles' concept of using sketching as a process in the production of interactive video for publication online. Miles experimenting with what is referred to as soft video aimed to utilize the affordances of video computers in the network by working with, quote, domestic ready-to-hand recording technologies and editing tools, unquote. Miles proposes that the types of works produced are, quote, informal, vernacular, serial, and aligned to a lo-fi sketch practice rather than being high resolution, professionally crafted and closed works, unquote. For Miles, the objective with soft video was a type of practice that utilized the serial and repetitive nature of the web. Video blogging is provided as an example. This is an online video practice that relies on the regular posting of content and in most cases the use of brevity to produce multiple small-scale video works as a unified collection. The idea of developing video sketching into a design method occurred due to using Rosenberg's concept of poetic research from the design field in my doctorate study, and I used Rosenberg's notion of the hunch to invigorate what was a practice-led inquiry. Rosenberg uses Bakdan's concepts of the centripetal and centrifugal as a way of understanding the relationships formed between the practitioner and the practice. The centripetal moves inwards and refers to an established, should be on. Oh yeah, there it is. The centripetal moves inwards and refers to an established body of knowledge, while the centrifugal moves outward to something that is yet to be realized. It is intuitive, risky, a step away from conventions and norms. Applying the idea of following a hunch opened up my practice to being iterative and evolving, because I became interested in what might happen if there was a space that allowed intuition to be followed, with the idea of not knowing what could eventuate. It was video sketching as a process that enabled me to utilize the void that had been created to explore possibilities. Video sketching in combination with poetic research shifted my practice towards design. So thinking about sketching in the design field itself, analyzing the design process, Grocott puts forward the notion of figuring as a method to visualize design research. Figuring as a concept is informed by Rosenberg's idea of poetic research and the friction that occurs for the practitioner between the centripetal and the centrifugal, the known, what is known and the unknown. It is this discord between the two, according to Grocott, which enables the designer to come up with something original. Figuring as a concept is positioned within the broader notion of allowing speculation to occur, which is referred to as, quote, an experimental investigative space, unquote. Two methods of drawing, diagrams and proposition drawings, are used by Grocott to frame figuring. These two types of drawing methods are taken from a taxonomy of drawing types by Lawson from an evaluation of the processes designers use. It is Lawson's outline on the proposition drawing that provides some insight into how video sketching is being used in my own practice and teaching, in relation to integrating it as a design method into media production. Lawson argues that the proposition drawing is situated as the very core of the design process, and it provides a space for the designer to make a start. The proposition drawing puts out into the world an idea in a visual form that can then be used as a focal point to begin the design process. According to Lawson, the proposition drawing is what Schoon would have defined as a sketch that enables the conversation to get underway. In reference to Lawson's evaluation of drawing and design, different types of drawing form an integral part of the design curriculum. Drawing as a form of visual representation are utilized to externalize what the designer is thinking, and as Lawson states, quote, may be seen as a kind of window into the designer's mind and consequently into the designer's knowledge system and method of mental representation, unquote. I propose that using video sketching as a type of drawing in a different form in media production presents an opportunity for students to visualize ideas and explore a varied number of potential outcomes. So now I'll move to the studio itself. In the mobile videography studio I teach, video sketching as a process is developed as a skill across 3 phases. Phase 1 involves completing a few sketches as a warm-up exercise and getting a sense of the process. A video sketch is undefined in terms of what students are expected to make. Students are left to work out what they think a video sketch is and how it can be made using a smartphone. For instance, there's no set duration. It can be as short or long as required. A video sketch can be time-based still image, a single shot, or a sequence. The only constraint is the limited production time, which is used to make students work quickly and intuitively. In phase 2, which I refer to as speculative sketching, students are encouraged to produce as many video sketches as possible, with the grading based on quality, with a significant amount of sketches receiving a high grade. I adapted this grading approach from teaching experiences put forward by Eric Booth, who has taught at prominent music academies in the United States. Booth argues that we are often taught to follow through with our first idea, which was referred to as satisficing, rather than explore lots of ideas and potentially a creative outcome that is much more significant. I introduced this quantity over quality because I found it difficult to get students to stop fixating on one idea and working towards a finished video work too early. Booth provides an example of a ceramist teacher grading students in 2 different ways. The first was based on a student making their best single pot. The second class on the amount of pots produced. In the class based on quality, students were quietly thinking and carefully considering options before picking up some clay. In the class working on producing as many pots as possible, students were busy, noisily playing and experimenting. They worked constantly in the medium. It is my aim in this phase to get students to work things out by picking up a smartphone and starting to make work. The final phase involves a discovery, usually one sketch that presents an idea for development into a substantial mobile video work. This is often the most difficult stage for students, as they often lose sight of the discovery they've found in their sketch and overcomplicate things in an effort to create a highly polished work. Using the sketching process has produced some outstanding works from students. I've found, compared to approaches that I've used previously, it opened up the potential to explore ideas that would not normally be realized. A connection here can be made with poetic research and using a sketching process to move students out of their known world into the unknown. In conclusion, encouraging students to utilize the sketching process to scope out a variation of approaches towards a problem teaches them not to start with the first idea that comes to mind. Instead, sketching enables them to develop the skills needed to work with the problem from multiple perspectives. Using sketching as a design method in the media studio allows students to visually conceptualize ideas in the medium being used. Visualization is a skill that can be used to start the design and production process and explore a number of solutions to a problem. Teaching students to work quickly and in a small scale way provides them with skills to test out ideas before committing to a large scale output. Video sketches as a disposable experiment provide an opportunity to explore technical issues. Use small scale tests to define the technical approach, provide students with the skills required to work with the specificities of new media projects. Using sketching to focus the studio on the processes used to make a work is important due to the shift to post-industrial media practices. The shift in emphasis from the production of content to the practice of making media itself, both by professionals. It is important in new media context for students to understand the affordances of the devices, mediums and platforms they are working with in order to work effectively. Sketching as a process allows multiple works to be produced quickly and learn through hands-on experience the properties of things and how they can be used. Enabling students to take an informal, intuitive and iterative approach towards their practice through a process like sketching opens up the possibility to work with the complexities of new media productions. A changing environment requires a media practitioner to have the ability to respond in a fluid manner to issues and problems as they arise. And finally, integrating video sketching into the media studio enables students to utilize design to work with changing technologies and practices. Design in this context can be considered as a process that responds to problems that arise through change. And this is why it has become a key feature of many of the practices associated with the fast-paced development of new media. Designers are problem-oriented practitioners who integrate hands-on skills with conceptual ideas, thinking through a making process to create solutions. Design methods like sketching provide students with an agile way to engage with problems and determine the strategies and practices required to work in an environment that is undergoing rapid transformation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So I'm asking people, you've got a question. Woo, it's a burning question.
Okay.
So the footage that you're showing is that it looks like you're going out into particular spaces and exploring with the camera. Could you talk about the ways in which students conceptualize video sketching and alternatives to that?
Sorry, so feeding that back to you, when you say an alternative to what? To me, to
Well,
going?
they're doing things that were more abstract rather than going out in the world and recording.
They were doing both. So Meg's here today, and Meg's one of my post students up back there. Meg's work's been peer reviewed into this year's curated selections along with some other students. So Meg, you worked on a work that focused on basically street workers, I think, weren't they, on Swanston Street?
Yeah.
So Meg's work is an example of working directly out in the real world with people, other people, and I think it's an interesting point because the curation later that you'll see kind of divides into fiction, non-fiction works which engage with, you know, kind of more the mockumentary, documentary aspect. And then there's really there's also a kind of whole section of experimental work, which is very much about engaging with the technologies, engaging with the software, the hardware, trying to find ways to kind of move it beyond the default. Yeah, so both, to answer your question in short. Yeah, sorry.
You touched on it briefly in your talk about the complexities of taking a sketch and then making it a more realised work, and that sometimes you lose something that was so beautifully alive in a sketch when you try to give it more production values or something.
Sure.
What are some of the issues students or you yourself that have you resolved?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was reading this morning in relation to the theorist I mentioned, I think it's Brian Law, around drawing, and how, you know, often if you think about the way an architect puts up a very early sketch, it's not a very closed thing, it's very open. So I think a part of that issue is that the discovery is still very open. So that's one part of it. So it's not exactly defined. So in some ways, it's an ongoing sketching process to get towards a polished work. You don't just kind of like make the leap necessarily. So I think that is often missed in an understanding that now it's not like now all of a sudden you're just going to make a polished work. There's kind of a whole iterative process to get to that point. The other thing that kind of gets missed, which is really sort of interesting, is I get a lot of instances where students aren't really recognizing that discovery and its full potential, and they go from what is a fantastic discovery to trying to make a short film fiction work from, you know, they've discovered this great experimental aspect that they would never have discovered if they hadn't have been kind of doing that sketching process. But then they try to bring it back to being a very traditional fictional short film, and it's kind of, so they've lost the essence of the space that they're kind of working in, which is very experimental space. So that's often a problem that occurs, and it's a matter of kind of guiding the student back to that space and acknowledging that what they've discovered is really interesting and got a lot of potential, I guess. Yeah.
Can I ask, following that, how did you determine, like, what criteria are you personally using to determine when something is experimental, that it has potential? Are you saying potential based on what we have already developed and what we could, or is the fact that it's perhaps so unfamiliar what you would value? And how do you determine, you said some exceptional pieces of work came out of your students, and what made those exceptional criteria?
Okay, good point. So it's very much a studio environment. So the process is to make and critique as a group iteratively and constantly right through the semester. So usually it's not about, say, the individual just recognizing the potential. It's also about group feedback. So often, you know, a student might be struggling to choose a sketch to put up for development. And they might show 2 or 3, and then the group actually kind of help that process of deciding what is looking to have what is appearing to be a discovery or something that has potential for development. So to answer your question, it's not like I decide. I think it's decided as a group, and I think it usually really is quite obvious when those critique session what is something that is kind of interesting that emerges out of a sketch. And I don't know if I could put much more flesh around it than that, but that's pretty much the process. So it's kind of it's almost done collectively, I think, as a studio.
But is it interesting because it's the point is to explore new grounds. So it's interesting if it is something new.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think you're using the right word. It usually is something that is potentially, I don't know if I would use the word new, probably unfamiliar is a good way of approaching it. So it's something that maybe the class, not saying that they haven't seen it before, because, everything is a remediation of everything else, but it certainly appears as something that is unique, I guess, or very particular to that person in terms of the discovery they've made through the process of sketching. Yeah. So
part of it is like pushing past like say if you had a group of students working on a similar problem, there's a certain number of solutions that everyone would come up with. So it's about pushing beyond that.
Yeah, right. Which I think that's exactly the point which I was trying to make, is that because what's happened for me in the past, particularly teaching more traditional film and TV, is that generally one idea is put up and then you kind of work at making that one idea happen. Whereas in this process, it's about putting up lots of ideas and potentially something that you might not have thought of beforehand through the process of doing multiple sketches and going, oh, I had no idea I'd end up in this space. And that was a bit about what I was talking about, that idea of speculative design is kind of like this void or space that you might not have thought possible through your own practice previously.
Let's ask about that gap between what you or the group sees if they can't see it, when they want to go back to traditional fiction. Do you know what that is, that gap? Is it developmental? Is it they feel overwhelmed by it?
I think so. I've been teaching the studio for 3 years and it's becoming more and more apparent. It's kind of interesting. What did emerge out of last semester was often the discovery or the potential it's about a real close reading of the sketch. It's about something very subtle or very specific within it that gets missed. And also it's about not realizing the potential of that subtlety or that discovery. So, if that's missed, then you're kind of, I found that I have students kind of floundering because they don't quite know where to go. And I have had cases where they'll go back and do more sketches because they feel like they'll see how other people have achieved that. And then they'll go out and actually make some new sketches and bring them back. Because, even though they've done 30 sketches, they just haven't found anything to work with. Yeah. I don't know if I'm making myself totally clear.
I'm curious about this space with students. Is it they're over, like they don't have internal capacity to go into this abyss, or do they need guidance from you?
It may be because we're dealing with experimental kind of practices, and a lot of the students I'm working with are not necessarily coming from an art school environment. They're coming more from a traditional media environment, which is basically falling back to, television, cinema. Yeah.
But can I add something? Because I've got the same experience with some video students in France. It's two different things. The first one is the lack of confidence, because they're young, they're emerging talents, so they don't really know what they're doing, so they don't really sure about their talent, and they think it's crap because it's not fitting into that category. And the second criteria is experience. It's about it sounds very weird with white hair here, but it's about having all that knowledge behind and say, well, for you it's shaky and it's not very bad, but we can see something that is quite unique here, and it's a very interesting camera perspective that I haven't seen much in my life. But for them, it's a mistake. So as a lecturer, experienced expert, you know, you've got a tacit knowledge, and you need to basically to talk with someone lacking of confidence and encourage and to make that sort of connection. You need in the middle.
But that's where it's tied to MENA as well, because you know, all these students have submitted independently of RMIT post the course. So there is actually a potential for them to achieve a highly professional outcome and actually realise that they do have the abilities to work at a high level. So
yeah, it's fantastic for us and for you. Yeah, it's a win-win. Yeah. Okay, so sorry to cut down, but we need to move to the next session. So thank you very much. Again.
no problem. Thank you.
Nice one. We need to have a drink. Okay, who's next?
No, hang out.